Indigenous Day. Uh, uh, I think that we didn't.
Well, it's
I think I
Indigenous
started
Peoples Day is what used to be Columbus Day,
Columbus
right?
Day. Yeah. So what is the? We're gonna
are we
find
just
out
doing
soon
two
enough.
Indigenous Peoples Days? I mean, I guess that's well deserved, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I actually don't know that. I know that it's like my uncle used to wear a shirt on Thanksgiving that said like Original Homeland Security Department, and it was like for Indigenous people holding guns. So
Wow,
that's how he commemorated it.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. People was like, people talk about racist uncles at Thanksgiving. My uncle was like,
An anti-racist uncle.
I mean,
You're an
as much,
anti.
yeah, anti-racist uncle, yeah. As much as I kind of hate that word, but
Well, look, you have to do it for the joke. It's just
you
I
got
had
it,
to do
yeah,
it for the parallel there.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I'll show you guys some cool photos of my uncle actually, because he was a great guy, Uncle Ricky. So, wanted to just welcome you to the show. Welcome you back, Jack. Hi,
Hi.
Jack.
Well,
How are
thanks for
you?
having me back. Good to be here.
Course,
Thanks.
of course.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we have a great show for you today, guys. This is someone who we had him on Useful Idiots, and I'm a huge fan of his work. And he's really prolific. He's like, he's kind of like a Renaissance man. I think it's fair to call him a Renaissance man. I'm doing it. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, this is a Renaissance man. Just get used to it, people.
Just get used to it. This is a Renaissance man. Get used to it. He's here. He's Renaissance. Get used to it. He is a writer, documentarian, funny comedian, and serious host of the podcast Thunder Bay, which is a really good podcast. It's a Canada Land podcast. It's really good. You guys should all listen to it, which explores the systemic racism, human trafficking, extortion, corruption, police misconduct, clowns, hate crimes, and the mysterious deaths of First Nation youth in Thunder Bay, Canada. And he has so many projects coming up that I'm just going to bring him on because I don't want to delay you. I don't want to deprive people anymore.
Spend the whole hour just saying the projects.
I could just intro him for an hour, and we don't want to do that because that's not fun. So bringing onto the show, Brian McMahon. Ryan, sorry, I'm a little starstruck. I have to admit, I'm a little starstruck. I've heard this podcast. I've heard his voice all the time. I've already had him on the show, and yet it's still the allure, the Ryan allure is there. And I was trying to master that last name because it's not pronounced the way it's spelled. And then I messed up the first name. Ryan McMahon. Thank you.
You're doing great, Halper.
Thank you,
You're
Ryan.
doing great.
Thanks.
Listen, I don't have a lot of time. I'm starting a new Teespring channel, which will be teespring.com/Renaissance Man. Get over it. Get used to it, because that's what he is.
Yes.
Teespring.com / he's a Renaissance man. That's what he is. Get used to it. So links in the chat. It'll be in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice
you are. I mean, yes. Thanks for coming back on to this show for the first time. We had you on Useful Idiots, and really appreciate, because I know how busy you are. In fact, tonight you're dealing with some breaking developments. Tell us what you are working on right now.
Yeah, well, the Thunder Bay podcast is just the podcast that just keeps on giving. And I made the first season in 2018, finished the second season this time last year. And essentially, for those that don't know where Thunder Bay is if you know Duluth, Minnesota on a map, most of you don't. It's about 2.5 hours northeast of there, just on the other side of the Minnesota-Ontario border. And Thunder Bay is just a city in trouble, man. There's no other way to put it. And I'm from around here originally. And I started making the documentary back in 2016, just to look at some of the rumors and some of the things I had heard that was going on. And I basically haven't left since then. And what we're tracking tonight is basically essentially a civil war inside of the Thunder Bay Police Service, where we are now working with sources and whistleblowers inside the service that are telling us that the bottom is falling out of this police force. And if you've watched The Wire, you kind of get a sense of what this actual real life story is in Thunder Bay. It's bananas.
And how did you, like, you're a comedian, right? I mean, you're also a writer, a documentary filmmaker, but was there kind of resistance on your part, on other people's part, about having a podcast hosted by a comedian?
I mean, comedy is the vehicle that gave me a platform, right? And so, you know, I went to school at the University of Minnesota for theater, and in 1999 moved to Toronto and started my career, and really early on started writing my own stuff, and went to the Second City in Toronto, and you know, had big dreams of doing comedy for a living, and I became a dad. I took some time off, and in 2010 recorded my first national comedy special up here in Canada, and that is what set me on the trajectory I'm on now. It's basically, you know, for 4 or 5 years, I had really good years. I went to Just for Laughs and toured independently across North America and beyond. But comedy is the thing that gave me the platform. And ultimately, as an Indigenous person, the responsibility to amplify the voices of the community. And I think that's all good storytelling is, whether it's funny or not, is you just reflect back to the people what is actually happening. And comedy is a vehicle for that, right? If you look at what Chappelle and others are doing now, they're not always right, they're not always wrong, but they're having conversations about the community as they see it. And I think that's what documentary and the shit that I'm doing now actually is.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, it manages to be, it's such a serious, dark subject matter, but you do manage to be, not in a disrespectful way, but just some things like are quirky and weird, and it's not like you bring levity to it, because that wouldn't really be appropriate, but there is it's almost like it's so, some of it is just so weird, and you're kind of honest about the parts that are weird and bizarre in a way that I think makes it like very relatable.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the clowns,
yeah,
right? So for people that haven't heard the first season of the podcast, I think it's episode 3 of the show. The clowns are introduced, and basically the clowns are these ceramic collection of clowns that a crown attorney here in Thunder Bay collects every time he is a winner in court. And each clown basically represents about $1 million in earnings and winnings from these civil cases, these different litigations. And you know, this guy is being filmed secretly while the mayor and the chief of police and other powerful people are in his basement. He is shirtless. He has just been beaten almost to death. And he's drunk and cracked out of his face on cocaine. And he's talking about his clowns. And actually, he's having this secret video taken of him in an effort to extort everyone else in the room. So it's if I was writing this for a dramatic TV series, it would be incredible. And everyone would be like, God damn it, you have to click on that thing that I watched on the weekend. That's how wild it is. And that's just real life here. And, you know, you mentioned Thanksgiving in your preamble, and I suppose we can talk a lot about that throughout the show and kind of reflect on where we are for this Indigenous Peoples Day. But the thing I'll say is, like, you know, in the same spirit that John Wayne built Hollywood, you know, killing Indians and cowboy and Indian movies, there still is a sense of the Wild West in pockets of America and pockets of Canada where anything goes. And as it relates to Indigenous people, we don't give a fuck about them. And so when they die, they die. And if they live, they live despite the system. So the story that I'm on today, is breaking. It's wild. It's forever evolving. And that sense, or that spirit of the Wild West, you know, still exists in towns like Thunder Bay and others. So, you know, to be continued. It'll be out spring of 2022, anywhere you stream, whatever you stream. I can't really announce who we've sold it to yet, but it'll be available worldwide.
Awesome. And so is there anything you can tell us about what's happening right now without, obviously, you know, you can't make any of your fellow Renaissance men upset, because I know that you guys take that community very seriously. There's confidentiality.
we're wearing doily shirts and smoking pipes and speaking in accents that are far beyond this show, let me tell you.
Wow.
So yeah, probably can't say much other than, like, what I'll say is what I can say unequivocally is that the story here continues to evolve and change. And so for anyone that has listened to the podcast, you can expect something that is well, you might say even a devolution, but it's the story evolving in real time, and a lot of people stopped paying attention to the story, frankly, and we didn't, and people will be surprised to learn where things are at today.
Yeah, and for people who haven't listened to the podcast, I mean, I gave a very brief summary of it, but what do you want to make sure people know about it? What do you say about it for people who haven't seen it? Like, you don't want to give too much away, even though it's out there. It's all out there. But what's your invitation to people?
Yeah, well, so in America, there were Indian wars, right? I mean, there were treaties and everything else as well. And America didn't live up to those either, but there were wars, and some people that know part of the story say that the West was won from the Indians, right? Up here in Canada, you can't say the same, because it's absolutely not true. There weren't wars. There were treaties, peaceful and friendship treaties. They're called peace and friendship treaties that created this country called Canada. And those treaties evolved into a more formal legal treaty system called the numbered treaties. And in the numbered treaties, a number of things were promised: school, healthcare, etc., in exchange for settlers staying and creating the country. And since then, Canada, officially enters into Confederation as a country in 1867. Since then, over the last 150 some odd years, Canada, could be argued, has never lived up to those treaties. And so the Thunder Bay story really is the crows coming home to roost, right? Like, it's like eventually rent is due and someone has to pay the bill. And what has happened here is essentially what I call a failed experiment here in Canada. It didn't fucking work. And Indigenous people didn't assimilate. Indigenous people didn't die off as planned. I mean, one of Canada's first prime ministers is quoting us say, putting kids in residential schools, I believe they're called boarding schools in America,
right? Yeah.
Was to kill the Indian in the child, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea was to target children first and forcefully assimilate their communities. And so it didn't work. And the Thunder Bay story is essentially that. It's the fallout from a failed experiment called Canada. So the stories that we tell are from the perspective of Indigenous youth who most often pay the price for this failed experiment. And the same is true in the United States. It's those most vulnerable that ultimately pay the price for these failed experiments, for the failures of these countries to live up to, what was promised to Indigenous people in the first place.
And so there's a lot about your people, by which I mean Canadians, that I don't understand, that I don't know a lot about. So, for instance, what you guys do have a Thanksgiving, right? But it's celebrated at a different time,
like March or something like that. It's like
in
the middle of spring or something.
We split Thanksgiving with Valentine's Day up here. No, it's in October. Like, it's around the harvest. It's Thanksgiving up here it's earlier than yours. And there's a differentiation between the two, I suppose, right? Like formerly Columbus Day, is not something we celebrate up here. It's not something we mark. We don't talk about that guy up here. We have our own assholes that we focus on up here.
Like the Ford brothers.
Right. I can't believe Halper. I can't. You go back to the Ford
basements up there.
This was such a short window of time. It's such a short window of time. I wish you knew more Canadians. frankly.
Yeah.
I have Canadian I'm half Canadian, but I've never really spent any time up there. So, but as far as I'm concerned, I've never ended up smoking crack in a basement there. I think that's mostly for important people and politicians and stuff.
I think you nailed it there for sure. Yeah, no, it's middle of October, and yeah, it's meant to celebrate the harvest, and I don't know, it's like it's a day off for people.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
they eat some turkey, and I mean, I went to school in America. Half my family's from
Right.
Minnesota, so I'm also like into like the football games and the bullshit that Americans really produce Thanksgiving, kind of like a wedding, right? Like it's not just manufactured, it's choreographed to
Right.
revolve around the National Football League.
Yes.
So people's dinners are scheduled early afternoon.
At like 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, they're quite different that way.
Is Canadian Thanksgiving, obviously American Thanksgiving is so it's almost like you mentioned Columbus Day. Like it is almost like a Columbus Day. It's so tied in with like what the fucked up shit that happened with Indigenous people when we first got here. Is it as tied to that sort of ugliness, the Canadian Thanksgiving, or is it more just like a pagan harvest dinner or something like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, if people that are confused try to make them the same thing, but they're not. They actually really are quite separate. And I think, that the Thanksgiving in America is much more tied to, forced colonization and forced assimilation and shit like that. Versus here, we have enough to talk about in that way. And one of the striking things that I think about America right now is like Indigenous people are having a moment, right? With the success of Reservation Dogs on FX, Rutherford Falls on Peacock, like the success of actors like Michael Grey Eyes and others who are really in the mainstream right now in the conversation, the consciousness, and it's really exciting to see. Like, and we've been here before, right? Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, other shit that Kevin Costner did in the 90s. I can't remember the names of.
Waterworld.
It does feel right now a little more driven by Indigenous voices than maybe just, like the faces you saw in Dances with Wolves.
That's accurate. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And that's the difference, right? Writers' rooms are being created. Directors and producers are in the room at the start of a project now, not as like cultural consultants. There's a company, an organization in and around Los Angeles called the Illuminatives, and they've just released a document for Hollywood, basically saying like, stop hiring us as consultants at the end to approve your racism and bring us in as meaningful employees of these companies, give us jobs, and we'll tell you what's right and wrong from the jump, save you an ass load of money.
Right.
And we'll equal out this representation question. And I get pissed off. Obviously, also looking at me, and if your chat or the internet will light up and say, "Well, this guy doesn't even look like an Indian." I mean, this is one of the great fallacies, right? Of what we are supposed to look like. Like I went to theater school, and in 1999, I moved to Toronto, and I'm a classically trained actor, and so. I can do everything from Shakespeare to sitting on the back of a horse with a loincloth. And I have done all of those things. But it was really early where I realized, like, I'm uncastable in this space. I can't go out for Last of the Mohicans, the musical, right? Like, they didn't look like me back then. I'm not delusional. And so I broke comedy. I went a different way. And now, where representation and authoritative voices in the room actually matters is like when we're casting and bringing people into these roles to go, yeah, well, you know what? Don't be mad at me because I look like this. This is the result of y'all, right? And and 3 of my 4 grandparents are brown and Indigenous looking. And could be extras in Last of the Mohican, the musical. But my one white grandfather blessed me with these green eyes and hot dog pink skin. So blessed be he.
Right. Wow. Had to dominate.
I mean, yeah,
Totally.
there is that,
messed up.
that is such an ugly thing that, like, you don't look a certain way. I've seen that a lot, especially with, and it is common, I think, with Indigenous people, especially because there is, because so many of these stereotypes basically still have yet to like be broken down,
Which is what I try to do through comedy, right? Like I've tried to have that conversation. When I first started comedy in 2010, like my first hour was basically me begging the audience, a room full of strangers, 400 or 500 people at a time, to like me. It was like, I promise I'm native, man. Fuck, look at my status card.
Right.
And like my mom speaks Ojibwe, man. Like I speak my language, bro, but I don't, and that I think everybody's, in the creative industries, if you're Indigenous, you're trying to find where you belong, what stories matter to you, what's important to you, what kind of work do you want to produce. And I've escaped what I would identify, at least through the Hollywood lens, like the white gaze, right? Like of what defines Indigenous representation and what doesn't. And while that costs me in the end, like I'm not running around on Reservation Dogs or on Rutherford Falls because visually there's no place for me. It's interesting. You just turn to other work. There's lots of shit for all of us to do.
Thank God for small favors, right? Like right. Terrible things in the world that needs to be exposed. And
yeah.
But I mean, you were saying it cost you, but you seem to have a very satisfying, I don't want to say career, because that sounds like it almost like diminishes what you do, but you do very important, cool things. And they seem to, when they're not, I assume, like depressing you or making you like infuriating you, it must give you a lot of joy and sense of like meaning and purpose.
Yeah, well, thank you. It just goes back to the responsibility piece for me. Like, there's a lot of people counting on people that have platforms to get the word out, and right. Here in Canada, we just completed about a year and a half ago or so, we just completed a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, over 4,000 of them in Canada. And so I'm a pretty privileged dude with a lot of space and a loud voice. And so I have to talk about that in my work. I have to point to that. I have to be on your show here where we're supposed to be having fun and like keeping things light and keeping things moving. And I have to mention like over 4,000 missing or murdered Indigenous women and girls. We haven't even started to talk about missing or murdered Indigenous men in Canada. And so, there's a lot to do. And when you get a platform in our community, I think you try to use it to the best of your ability. It's a balance though, man. I can honestly say I've not kept a decent balance, right? Like I'm making heavy duty fucking documentary that demands that I cry myself to sleep a lot of nights. And a close friend of mine said, you're more valuable to the people when you're being funny. Like, let's get you back on the road. Let's get you back being funny. And I take that to heart. And I certainly aim to be back on the road. And I have a new hour that I'm going to be touring with in the new year. It's when you wake up and you feel like every day is an emergency, it's hard to turn away from this stuff.
Yeah. But it also, I imagine that the comedy stuff is probably like therapeutic. Like you have to laugh instead of cry.
Yeah.
Not that you can always do that, obviously, but.
Yeah. Well, this is, I mean, I think any peoples that come from oppressive histories have found humor, right, as a way to cope. And there's a lot of similarities between diverse communities in that way, where I think we can all agree that, cracking jokes is better than feeling bad about your life. And so we turn to humor as a mechanism to deal. But I also like to sort of articulate it a little bit better than that, which is like, actually in Indigenous worldviews and in Anishinaabe or Ojibwe worldviews in particular, like laughter or using that type of storytelling is also inherent in our worldview, right? Like all of our what we call adsokanen, or our sacred stories, our religious belief stories, they're full of what we call Nanabuju, or the trickster, right? And the trickster's always messing with people, taking the skunk's tail and putting it on the bear, and no one likes the bear because he smells like shit now. Like there's thousands of these stories that are meant to be instructive for us, right? And so yeah, it's, you know, laughter is medicine, laughter is healing, all that shit, but it's also inherent to who we are as Indigenous people, and in our most serious and dark times, you know, at funerals and at times like that, you know, we're laughing. So, you know, so it's an important distinction.
Yeah. Dallas Goldtooth has been on the show in the past, who I think is hilarious and also really brilliant. And he was on, I guess it was around last Thanksgiving, and he and Leslie Lee. And so Jack, by the way, who knows Hollywood stuff because he worked on the Jimmy Kimmel show and has a lot of,
It's like you're like my IMDb. Wow, it's nice to have a personal IMDb here.
No, but when you were talking about Hollywood stuff and casting stuff, Jack is very critical of all of that world. So, but it was funny because so it was Dallas and me and Leslie, who's another co-host of the show, and we were talking about like Black, Native, and Jewish humor. And Leslie and Dallas were having they were like complaining about like what were they were basically saying like it's not fair because like my people, so like Jews, were able to like mock depravity. You know, we have more like depraved license than they do because they hadn't like made enough inroads to like be able to do that. Like there was too much responsibility. To set,
there's
like,
a little
example.
The voice is too important. You can't be talking about shit and farts and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's been like. So our hero, I think Dallas would probably say this too, but one of our heroes, Charlie Hill, who passed away at the end of 2013, you know, he was an Oneida comedian who was on the Richard Pryor show back in 1970, first Native comedian to do stand-up on television. And Charlie Hill, like, you know, he actually, I posted this on my Instagram today. He famously said to me one time on tour, I'd rather disrupt the people than tickle them. And his whole thing was like using comedy as a vehicle for change. And when just before he died, he told me like, just remember that comedy is too important not to be taken seriously. And I was like, all right, if I was a tattoo person, that would be tattooed somewhere on my body.
Major tattoo material.
Yeah. So, so I don't know why that is. I don't know when we break out of that. I don't know if there's a generation of comics, Indigenous comics behind me that will. But we're not there yet. I don't know. It's like our even Reservation Dogs, right? Like a super funny, light. You're into it until you get to episode 6 or was it 7? I forget. Where it's like, oh fuck, the dark turn. Right? Yes, life is hard and it sucks. Fuck, I forgot. And that's not a criticism of the writers or anything like that, but it's like, right, we still have to talk about these things. So, and I think that's largely because these things are still going on, right? We think about Indigenous people as like these historical fence posts, but we're still out here, right?
Yeah,
still
the
out
crying,
here.
like the tear. I feel like for so many people, that's like where Native American.
They live in the 70s, crying by a highway.
You know,
right.
Indigenous, not Native American. So I can't. If I say Native American, does that make me sound like a nationalist, like an American first person? That's not my intention.
You know, most Native people,
North American. How about Native North American?
I'm a Pan-Americanist though, so when I say that, I'm being subversive. Yeah, I'm challenging the border nation states.
So woke.
You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting, right? Because like to go back to the Thanksgiving thing, right? Like this question of representation and who's on TV and who's in the writer's room and all of that, like it is about Indigenous people taking control of their lives back and eventually getting to the place where we have a say. And us having a say is really important because we've never had a say. And you can go all the way back to Manifest Destiny in Columbus and draw a straight line to where we are today. You can draw a straight line from Columbus and Terra Nullius, empty land, Manifest Destiny, right? And the marching orders to come over here and take is how we got to a place where there are 4,000 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And you can draw a line
that are known of, right? Like that we know of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just Canada. We haven't done this. America is about 30 or 40 years behind Canada in the social responsibility or the political responsibility question as it relates to Indigenous people. Like, we've been doing this in this country since I was a kid, at least. So with the Columbus thing, it's like you go back to Walt Disney, you go back to John Wayne in the earliest days of Hollywood, like, you know, go to Peter Pan and go look at how Native people are portrayed then. Like, we've never had a voice. We've never had a say. And so, the fucking Atlanta Braves chop is obnoxious. The Cleveland baseball team changing their names is great, because all of that comes from Manifest Destiny. It all comes from Columbusing our lives.
Right.
And so this is getting on some woke bullshit that I actually don't really spend a lot of time on. But that's what it is. And so it's a big deal that we have these shows on TV right now. It's a big deal that we continue to push for better representation and more voices in the room, because we deserve it. We've fucking been through too much, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, the bottom line is we need to be funny when we get there. We need to have good ideas when we get there. But I think this is in part how we get there, right? Katie, like I think I said this to you and Matt last time we got to hang out, was like, this small thing of sharing a space is impactful. It moves the chains just a little bit, and we move a bit, you know, forward. Maybe there's someone in this room that is going to hear something they didn't know, and it changed their mind. So, you know, to be continued, I suppose. We'll see.
Yeah. Canadian friend wanted me to ask you, by the way, your thoughts on Justin Trudeau's holiday to Tofino, BC on National Truth and Reconciliation Day.
God. So for context, what it would be like is Biden saying, like, we are going to apologize to Native Americans, and it's going to be on a day. It's going to be on a day, and everyone's going to get the day off. It's a national day off. And we're going to wear orange shirts to commemorate the day, because this residential school survivor was asked to take off her orange shirt on the first day of school one day. And she told the story famously, and Orange Shirt Day caught fire, and everyone started wearing orange shirts on the day. And everyone's going to have the day off to reflect on what this means. And then Biden goes to his cabin. You know, that's what Trudeau did. He couldn't have picked a different day to go to Tofino and surf. Like, fucking really? And so
you don't even wear a shirt when you surf, so that's even worse.
Like, you didn't think you were gonna get caught, bro? Like, you're the prime minister, man.
Yeah, he's not so good at those things. If I recall correctly, he's worn some like paint on his face.
He can't count the number of times he's worn blackface. He's not sure.
Yeah,
he got caught.
I think the world is not yet sure.
Right.
More keep coming. They keep coming out. There's a new one all the time.
Waiting for that. Yeah. Waiting for
he got caught and he apologized, and then after that, sometime after that, a second and a third picture emerged, and it was like, wait a minute.
He's like, that whole spree.
How many times?
Yeah, there's a spree. It wasn't once.
And a journalist asked, like, how many more might there be? And he's like, like, I think, quote, I think it is like, I can't be certain.
But I like when he interrupted. He is woke. What he like, some woman was talking about something about humankind or mankind.
Oh, right. He said, like, we need to say humankind or something.
Human,
right?
Yeah. He mansplained to a woman who was speaking.
Oh, dude, he's such a feminist.
Yeah, he's such a feminist. Yeah.
Such a feminist.
Yeah. And what is happening? Can you talk about this white saviors controversy that's happening right now, which is another Canada Land podcast?
Oh, well, so where do I start with this? There's an organization called We, which is a youth organization that was a fundraising charity to build schools around the world in places where there weren't schools. And it was there's a podcast called The White Saviors. I invite people to listen to it. That will tell the story far better than I will. And some of it actually I can't talk about because these people are very litigious,
Right.
and none of us want to get sued. So basically, it was an investigation into what the hell this organization was purporting to do and what it actually did. And it has come out the other side. And it looks as though they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. It's alleged that they didn't build the schools that they were supposed to. And I think many of the supporters, including all of the celebrities, of which Oprah is on the list, Bono, DiCaprio, I mean, all of these people supported this organization or the idea of the organization. It feels like everyone was hoodwinked. So, White Saviors is the name of the show.
And it's a Canadaland show, right?
And it's a Canadaland joint. Yeah. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. And I know you have to go because you've been so generous with your time. Anything else you want to make sure that we talk about, mention, cover?
I would just say, like, in an effort to sort of spread the positivity and the moment, like, yeah, just keep seeking out Indigenous voices. Like this is Native American Awareness Month in the United States. And I know that a lot of organizations and libraries and universities and different places have done events. And the more we just do our little part to amplify the conversation, I think the further we go. Politics is not going to save us. People will. And I think a big part of making our communities better is dealing with our histories. So find those voices. Reservation Dogs, Rutherford Falls. There is more Indigenous literature and visual art and music and documentary, podcasts, and comedy than ever. So support Indigenous creative people. Awesome. Yeah, we'll do a panel. You can help me book it. I'd love to. We'll bring some recommendations for what people can watch and listen to, and it's great. That'd be awesome. Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much, and I'll link to all of your projects, which will take me like an hour to do, but I'll try to do it. I'll get like carpal tunnel syndrome, but yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. So funny, so smart, so hardworking, so important. It's good to meet you all, and thanks again. We'll talk soon. All right. Okay, great. Peace. Thanks, Ryan. He's so great. He's great. He's really great. Like, yeah, I got to check out the podcast. Honestly, just the clown story is great just to begin with. Good Lord. And it's all, there's a lot of like depravity, and it's so funny because you hear these people and they're like criminals and they do bad things and they have these Canadian accents. It's got the Fargo. It's got a little of the Fargo fun to it too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like that. There That's good stuff. Yeah. So all these people, and like you hear these things that were recorded like undercover, and these, I mean, it's just like, that sounds great. And like, a lot of so much corruption. Wow, I love it. Sounds awesome. Really good. I listened hearing the interview. I was like, wow, this sounds like a fucking good podcast. Yeah. It really does. Yeah, it's funny. I don't listen to a lot of. I think sometimes people will assume that I listen to a bunch of like political podcasts, but I actually, for me, it's like more of an escape to listen to more narrative podcasts or something like that one, which is so good because it is political inherently, but it's also like it reads like a you almost feel like it's fiction. I do like a good sort of, not true crime, but just true story. True crimey. Yeah, but I don't even, because I don't really like true crime. I care more about true story podcasts. Story, I like something where it's like a story I don't know and it's being laid out. That's good stuff. That's why the true crime I do like is only because of that. You know what I mean? I don't like to necessarily just listen to little rundowns of what every murderer was like or whatever. Yeah, no, that can get a little dark. That can get dark. Yeah. You know what podcast I really like? It's probably politically problematic, or maybe not. That? No, maybe it's actually good because it kind of critiques the military-industrial complex. I think. What's that? It's called. Wait a second, I can't remember it. Home. It's with Catherine Keener, and then they made it into an Amazon show, like a video show. Hold on, let me look this up. Catherine Keener. She's on the podcast, or she's just on the show? No, podcast. Okay. Hold on.
David Schwimmer.
On the podcast? So this is is it like a fiction?
Sorry, it's fiction. Homecoming. It is not Homecoming.
Gotcha.
Those are really good too. But yes, just so everyone's clear, Thunder Bay is actual, like it's reported.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a. What other podcast do I like? What other podcast do you like, Jack? Obviously, Struggle Session.
Struggle Session's great. Obviously, the Katie Halper show. You can't miss an episode.
Good.
I don't really listen to that much podcast. I used to like a lot more when I worked at an office. But since I've been doing podcasting, I just don't. I don't know. I listen to audiobooks is what I listen to. That's sort of in my world of where I would listen to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. Really.
This is my uncle, by the way, who I mentioned earlier.
Is that the shirt? I can't really make it out. That's great.
It's Homeland Security fighting terrorism since 1492.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I made. Yeah. Let's see.
That's like a shirt you just would see, any sort of, septum pierced leftist wearing now. You know what I mean? It's like he was really ahead of the trend there.
Yeah, he really was. Yeah. I got great photos of him. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Got some great photos of him getting arrested. Like he was arrested. I didn't even know this stuff, and I made a Facebook page for him.
Wow.
I knew he was political. Obviously, he rejoined the party, and I think you know what I mean when I say the party. Yeah.
Oh wow, good for him. That's
good
great.
For Uncle, yeah. I'm trying to drag. You taught me this. How you can drag a thing into a window.
Oh, drag like a picture onto Firefox. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not.
It's a little finicky. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it wants to save the picture, which is not perfect.
No, that's not what we want. Yeah.
That's not perfect. That's not what you want to do.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm trying to find and then it's like, hold on, let me see. I'm trying to find some of these good photos. Oh, now you see my Facebook. Hold on, let me get out of here.
Oh no.
That's never good. Hold on.
That's definitely you don't want to show that.
No. Let's see. Although the Facebook page is public. It's called Ricky Eisenberg Presente. Yeah. It's a very good Facebook page because he's such an interesting life. Hold on, let me try to find this other cool. Oh, here he is when he was getting arrested. Hold on. Right? Yes, hold on. This is another cool one. I think I'll be able to share this one. Hold on 1 second. All right, can you see that?
Not yet. Are you sharing it?
Oh, you know what? Okay, little behind. All right, here we go.
There we go.
Government incited violence against Du Bois Club.
Oh,
so
that's
the Du
cool.
Bois Club was basically like the young Communist Party wing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So victims, Larry Jarvis, David Barkin, and Eric Eisenberg.
There he is. Look at that.
Tell TV and newspaper reporters how Brooklyn cops arrested them after they were attacked by hoodlums. Hoodlums then were like right wing, were like racist, basically. Here's another photo: 1 man, 1 vote from Southeast Asia to Southeast USA.
That's great.
A cool photo, right? Isn't that great?
Yeah, very cool.
That's a reference to Vietnam and the South, obviously. Okay, that's trying to find the more political ones.
that's just at a wedding. That's just a
I
wedding
know.
picture.
That's what. Is it still up?
No, I was just.
no, it is still up.
It is still the page is still up.
I know it's very. It's hard to use. Yeah.
It's doing these shows is not natural. You know what I mean?
Stressful.
No one was intended to do a show to be running the tech and talking and stuff. It's bizarre.
It's very bizarre, yeah. But yeah, I found a lot of great, cool things. An article he wrote in The Insurgent, which was the Du Bois Club. Oh, this is really cool. You guys are gonna like this. Hold on. Damn it! I wish I could drag it though. Hold on. This is a good one. Hold on. Here's my uncle. All right, you can't really see him, but is it even showing? No, because you see,
no, not
I
yet.
used to have it so it automatically would show, and then
you show bad stuff.
Yeah, well, I would be like, oh, I don't want to show this yet. Okay, here's
right.
All right. Damn it! That's as far as you can go. All right, here we go. Ready? Can you see that?
That's great. That's a great picture.
Yeah, you see the fist?
Yeah. What does it say?
Communist Ricky.
The poor for. I can't really tell.
I don't know what it says actually, but it's from a book, I think, and it's Communist Ricky Eisenberg of the W.E.B. Du Bois Club gives red salute behind the head of communist.
That's great.
Official
That's
Arnold
awesome.
Johnson. Yeah, I gotta look into Arnold
Very
Johnson.
cool.
I'm not sure who he is.
Very cool.
But yeah. What about your communist uncle? I'm just kidding.
My communist uncle, I don't think my uncles are from Oklahoma. So, if they're communist, I think they had to be pretty quiet about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that maybe my cousins I definitely know they've like watched some of the stuff, so they're probably further left than Oklahoma, maybe used to churn out.
Right. Another great shirt from my uncle.
No, that's great. Danger, educated union member. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, here he is. I'm looking for got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Better World Awards.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and he got honored, and so did friend of show / personal friend Ava Farkas, who was at the Met Council on Housing, and look who else was there. Gwen Carr, Gardner Way Foundation, as Eric Garner's mom. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool.
So very proud of my uncle.
Oh yeah, that's a good uncle. You got a good uncle. Your uncle is. I mean, it's cool to have all those black and white pictures, like to be
it is.
in published. Oh, you still got it up, by the way. Just
that's
so
okay.
you know.
That's okay. Yeah.
Now it's on purpose this time.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
No, thank you for that's true because there are some bathing suit shots, but
maybe toss. Maybe that's too hot for YouTube.
Yeah,
some of these bathing suit shots.
This is the Du Bois Club. Anyway, I found a bunch of stuff when I was putting stuff together for his memorial. This was like a couple years ago now. Mm-hmm. But here it is. Maybe better version of the Arnold, the communist thing. Oh, then look at this. I found the article about him. Like when he was like my mom and his wife like didn't know about this part, that there was a case against him.
Huh. Well, maybe he was like, I don't want to worry anyone.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know.
But somehow it was against Eisenberg. So
is that for when they got roughed up, or what is that? What was that case?
So a review of the record discloses there was sufficient evidence to warrant a finding of guilt with respect to the charge of obstructing an officer in the performance of his duty. On appellate review, where there are conflicting inferences to be drawn from the proof, the choice of inferences is for the trier of the facts. We've limited jurisdiction to pass on the factual determination affirmed by the appellate term, unless unsupported as a matter. Appellant claims, however, that this case presents an extraordinary state of the evidence, which raises the issue to one of law rather than fact, since all the events alleged to constitute the crime in this case are recorded from moment to moment in a film shot by the American Broadcasting Company as a television newsreel. So I think what happened is that they lied.
And it was on TV or something. Yes. They lied, and it was like, well, this was all filmed and on television.
They tried to like give an edited version of it, I think.
Wow, that was pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good legal translating, because that was near impossible to understand. Well, really was.
To be honest, I'm going to be straight up here. Like, it wasn't in real time. I think I had thought it.
You had found that you had heard about this before.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nixon banquet speech. That's great.
Ticketed by New York. Oh, I thought they were describing my uncle. I was like, he wasn't short. Okay. I mean, he wasn't tall. He was average height. 5'9", maybe. A short-spirited rally took place in the midst of Midtown evening traffic. Ricky Eisenberg, one of the organizers of the demonstration, and a United Auto Workers member, started off the rally.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool to have all this stuff, man. All on public record. Now it would all just be like screenshots of tweets. That sucks.
Yes, it doesn't.
All these cool scans from books and newspapers. Now we just have to keep a bunch of screenshots of tweets being like, got arrested at a a protest. Yeah, I know. Be like retweeted this person, like owned, dunked on, completely dunked on, absolutely dunked on. This staffer.
This is interesting, by the way. So this article here, this is from a pamphlet about the Fort Hood Three. The Fort Hood Three were the first 3 men to go to jail for refusing to fight in Vietnam. They were not conscientious objectors. They wanted to be clear that they refused to fight in this unjust and illegal and immoral war. That's what they said. So they went to jail. So they asked my uncle, because my mom and my uncle like were friends with him. The CCNY is CUNY. So it's City College of New York.
Okay.
So it's a CUNY school. It's called City College. It used to be called like the Harvard of New York or something.
Okay.
But it was free. Was it the Harvard of New York or the Jewish Harvard? I can't remember. Anyway, one of the working class Harvard, something like that. So this is about Dennis Mora, and wow, kind of a dig, actually, at CUNY, because at Brown remembers Mora's sister, Mrs. Grace Newman. He became disenchanted with the sons of the wealthy. He was not achieving the high grades in science courses he expected of himself, so he switched to Uptown CUNY and changed his major from physics to history. Wow.
That's great.
She kind of threw CUNY under the bus there, but yeah. An East Harlem boy who grew up around.
Well, I don't know. They do talk about Brown, and then all the rich kids there. That's
no, the
at
rich
least a
kids
little
thing, but they could have let, you know what? She actually, she didn't throw them under the bus. Whoever wrote this pamphlet kind of did with this inference about his not achieving high grades in science courses.
Ah, sure. Yes. That's a little snide.
Unless they're saying he needed a do-over and decided to start from scratch, change schools, change major.
Yeah.
I was getting insecure and thought that they were saying that he wasn't smart enough for Brown, but was smart enough for CUNY. But I'm going to say no.
Oh, interesting. Gotcha.
That was my own insecurity.
I saw it as he was too distracted by hating rich kids to focus on his studies.
Yes. So he had to change majors, change schools,
and move away,
which is history. Yeah.
Yeah.
An East Harlem boy who grew up around 113th and 5th Avenue. He was an excellent student, an accomplished swimmer, and very determined in everything he does, says Mrs. Newman. At City College, he joined the Du Bois Club. That's probably where he met my uncle. To protest U.S. policies in Vietnam, Guatemala, and Puerto Rico, which he regards as an economic colony of the U.S. Mora is himself Puerto Rican. That's how he talks. He talks like a 1940s actor, Dennis, our friend. A classmate at CCNY and fellow member of the Du Bois Club, Ricky Eisenberg, said today Mora was never a communist. He's a socialist and interested in Marxist interpretation of history, but he's not a communist. And Eisenberg added with a grin, or what he'd tell you is he's not yet, if you asked him. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Cool stuff.
Cool stuff, right?
Yeah. Very cool. Like I said, I love all the newspaper clippings. It's like we're going through the microfilm or something.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool. He also played guitar.
Wow.
Another one of the shirt. Anyway, so, yeah.
Good times.
Great. Yeah, good times, yeah. Oh, here's one more. With the New York City Labor Chorus.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I thought I said gurus for a second, but that's the chorus.
Yeah. New York City Labor Gurus. They tell you all of that.
The labor gurus. Okay.
Yeah. That'd be good. But yeah. So there's that. Anything else? What's happening with you? What do you want to talk about?
If anyone's going to be at Comic-Con this weekend, for some reason they're doing a fake half Comic-Con, and I'm going to be doing a booth there. So in the off chance that anyone here is going to the fake half Comic-Con that they're throwing in San Diego this weekend, come by the BugCon booth. So I should say that. That's what I've been working on a little bit. And yeah, I mean, what's going on out there? What's been going on, in the news, I guess. I mean, all you see is like that. I mean, it's funny. Pretty much all the news about politics and about DC is just like Biden has terrible, like all it is basically just being like the Democrats are about to lose. That's like every single story I see is like Biden's approval rating is like below where Trump got at his lowest, on the Quinnipiac poll. And everyone's like, we interviewed a focus group and they hate the Democrats. I'm like, it just doesn't, and, meanwhile, they're telling us that democracy hangs in the balance and all this. And, yeah, it just doesn't seem, it doesn't, it just feels really stupid out there. It really does. It really does.
It does. Yeah.
It's like, it's like I feel like I'm like, oh, have I like stopped paying as much attention to politics? And I'm like, I don't actually think so. I think just they're not doing anything. Like every time I check in and go look at it, I'm like, they're just not doing anything. They're not passing, the stupid Build Back Better plan. Like they're just crowing about their stupid fucking infrastructure, fixing pot. By the way, the infrastructure bill, I was thinking about this. That's like literally the bare minimum that we should expect for tax dollars. You know what I mean? Like that they will like put a little bit of asphalt in like a pothole. You know what I mean? Like
so we don't fall into it.
This is stuff that if you like asked someone in like 1700 what tax dollars should go to, they'd be like, fix the roads. You know, it's like, that we've just become so used to, paying all these tax dollars and for them to just be like poured into the military and, to developing new fucking weapons that it's like, we're supposed to think it's like manna from heaven that they're going to like fix rotting bridges and shit like that. I don't know. I mean, it feels like what they're doing is trying to like pivot to talking about how good the infrastructure framework is because that's all they're going to get done with the presidency and the House and Senate.
Yeah, they really suck. They suck, and
there's really not much that more you can say about it. It's like that, we do these kind of political shows, and you're supposed to follow the TikTok of everything that's going on, and I'm like, yeah, they are not doing anything. They're not doing anything. So what's there to even talk about?
Yeah, well, it's been a while. Case study QB. Let's show one of his clips. He's always got great clips, right?
Yeah, right. Case study QB has got the good stuff, the good MSNBC
big
stuff.
Shout out to Case study QB. Yeah. So here is something with non-friend of show, someone who my mom wrote a letter to, saying how disappointed she was because he called Bernie a gun-toting socialist. Wow. Hakeem Jeffries, who took the spot of. What was he? He took some spot that Barbara Lee should have gotten. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been Progressive Caucus because he would never join that. I can't remember what it was though. But let's see what he has to say. As QB, Chris Hayes asks Hakeem Jeffries, the Dems ran on raising taxes on this reach while BBB will reduce taxes. Oh, on the rich.
Sure this reach.
I think he means on the rich, right?
On the rich, yes. On the rich, yes.
Chris Hayes asked Hakeem Jeffries, the Dems ran on raising taxes on the rich while BBB will reduce taxes. Hakeem Jeffries then defends SALT by saying police officers, teachers, nurses, firefighters, public employees use it.
Cool.
Okay, let's see.
You mentioned the tax cuts for working families, and I have to ask one of the most controversial elements of this, I think one of the most politically hard to defend, is that because of negotiations in the caucus, particularly Josh Gottheimer, who represents New Jersey suburbs, there's a repeal on part of the Republicans' tax bill, which will end up effectively cutting taxes for lots of millionaires who live in high tax states like New Jersey and New York and California. And people have said you ran on raising taxes on the rich, and in fact, you're giving them a huge tax cut in this bill. How do you defend that?
Well, when you look at the overall amount of revenue that's being generated, that will come from the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected paying their fair share across the country, as well as additional taxes from corporations, not as high as I would have liked. I think we should have raised the corporate tax rate, but that does not appear feasible given the dynamics in the Senate. But with respect to the SALT tax cap, you're talking about often in places like New York, northern New Jersey, or Connecticut, parts of Illinois, certainly in California, high-cost jurisdictions where you could have a police officer and a teacher, a nurse and a firefighter, a social worker, two public employees who are middle class or maybe even solidly middle class, who the SALT tax cap has put them in a worse position than they were in prior to the passage of the GOP tax scam in 2017. And this was aimed directly at blue states by Republicans in a bill where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1%. And so I do believe that we need some SALT reform, and some of the public employee unions, including the American Federation of Teachers, as well as the state and local and county employees, actually support this effort that we've undertaken because they recognize that the Republicans were trying to punish the ability of states like New York and California to raise revenue that can then be poured back into the well-being of the people that we serve in these states, as opposed to what happens in red states where they raise no revenue. They don't have local income taxes. They treat their people very differently, needless to say.
Okay.
You just mentioned that.
So this is one of these things, by the way. I think he actually tweeted out David Sirota dinging back at him. Okay, because SALT is one of those things where like Trump was on the kind of on the right side of this.
So listen,
like, yeah.
SALT is like was a really well set trap by Trump and the GOP. And what I'm shocked is that the Democrats are like falling for it so completely. Like, I don't think Trump did it because he gives a shit about taxes or anything like that. They did this to set a trap for the next time the Democrats get in charge, because they know that all their donors are going to demand that the SALT cap be reinstated, and that they're going to look like shit and like hypocrites. And like, what is the actual reality of it is like, this is the only part of the fucking GOP tax scam that they call it that they're repealing, like they're changing some of the corporate tax rate and everything like that. But like, this is like, it's really telling how animating an issue this is for the Democrats, and how like we're not going to get, a raise on the minimum wage because Kyrsten Sinema said no or whatever the fuck. But when it comes down to it, they are getting the SALT cap put back in come hell or high water. Like, I'm like, even if the Build Back Better bill doesn't happen, they're going to get this done before the midterms, guaranteed. And in my opinion, I really do think that it was a trap set by Trump and the Republicans, and a smartly laid one, and they're falling for it completely. Like, we're going to see nothing but midterm ads about how they lower taxes for blue state people and they want to raise your taxes. Frankly, also, one other thing I'd like to add to it, is that I really am not against any people paying more taxes. This construction that it's like teachers and shit that are helped by the SALT cap is bullshit. And then another thing that the Democrats like to say, and Josh Gottheimer likes to say, is this thing, that was implied there by Hakeem Jeffries, that like the red states are like freeloader states because they don't charge enough taxes. And I think that's a really fucking ugly way to get into it. Like, yes, I do agree that red states should have more taxes, but is this where we are at this point, where we're like we don't want there to be public programs for people who just happen to live in America? Like, there's a lot of people of color and poor people and stuff who live in red states and aren't responsible for who their fucking representatives are. So like, yes, I do think that San Francisco homeowners should probably pay a little more in taxes, even if it goes to helping people with welfare in Texas. I don't really give a shit.
It's so disgusting. Yeah, I mean, it's like this. I mean, it's like this micro nationalism or something where we're supposed
weird.
to hate
It's also like a weird version. It's a really weird version of the welfare queen stuff, but like applied to like whole states in a really ugly way. And by the way, a lot of states are doing really badly, and like the opium crisis, like a lot of this country is completely fucking hollowed out and dying. And like, maybe we should like send some money from more prosperous states to less prosperous states.
Yeah. No, it's like they wanting everyone in a state to die because they didn't vote the right way. When at the same time, at least like nominally decrying, disenfranchisement or voting rights. Like, if you're acknowledging that poor people and people of color face like burdens and obstacles when it comes to voting rights,
right?
And then you're going to blame and punish.
Well, they elected these people. It's like, no, you can't say these are contradictory when you're saying these sentences like right next to each other. It's like they're disenfranchising for people to vote, but they deserve what they get because they vote Republican. I'm like, no, like a lot of people can't fucking vote. And whose fault is that, by the way? It's still the fucking Democrats.
Yeah, right. Well, Kamala's on that. She's on top of it. So
Kamala has a very important portfolio of understanding the root causes of migration.
Yes, right. She's very good at telling Guatemalans, do not come. Do not come.
The Kamala story, I can't even believe the tale of Kamala and how far Kamala's fallen. It's unbelievable that Kamala's like below fucking Dick Cheney now. Like, what a bad call. The Democrats are truly in disarray. They have no one. They have like no one. Like, even the young like AOC will never go over, like, aside from like the lefty issues that we all have with her and everything like that. She'll also just never be a national political figure because like they've like completely set, you know, they've set the entire, like, you know, all the talking points against her. Like, even aside from like that, I think she's not far left enough or whatever.
Sure,
it's not that helpful for Nancy Pelosi to go out and be like, she's dangerous and all this fucking shit. And like, she's what causes us to lose elections. It's like, they have no bench. Kamala Harris is polling at fucking 28%, and that's the fucking heir apparent of the party. What we're looking at here, and by the way, Biden's saying he's going to run in 24. So what we're looking at here, Katie, it seems like, is Biden running in 2024, and then the 2028 primary being Pete Buttigieg versus Kamala Harris. We are deeply fucked.
Yeah,
if you care about Republicans not being in power in this country, we are deeply, deeply fucked at this particular moment.
Yep. It is. It's yeah. And I just want to give Salt, someone who's written a lot about Salt, David Sirota. Mm-hmm. And as QB retweeted, the data proves Rep. Jeffries is a liar when he pretends with a straight face that lifting the salt cap is for the middle class. It's like a Republican pretending the estate tax it's like a Republican pretending this estate tax repeal helps small farmers. Raising the salt cap mostly benefits the very rich.
As is completely obvious. As is completely obvious, because while, yes, maybe there will be some people who own homes and whatever who are able to write off a very small amount, but like when it comes to people making millions and millions of dollars like that, you know, you just look at this chart and it's like when there's a cap and above that is millions, the people with millions are obviously making more than the people who are like, oh, I paid, you know, I got 5,000 or something, you know, off my earnings for the year or something like that. Right. Yeah. And also, by the way, the salt cap, not that it's like I don't really care about debt, the fucking national debt or anything like that, but it is the most expensive part of the plan. So
right,
it's
but
like
you're saying not that we care, but all these all these deficit hawks.
But for all the deficit hawks, it's ridiculous. And by the way, it's not that I don't care about the deficit, but I do think if you're using the deficit, there may be slightly better ways to use it than just to like. It's just such a fucking joke. And it does really show in a lot of ways that the two parties are the same at this point. They're both just, you know, for the benefit of different types of rich people. Like there are rich people who are okay with abortion and there are rich people who are not okay with abortion. And really the parties are just for them. It's about like their whims and their needs and, you know, and the rest of us, you know, truly just don't matter. I mean, the fact is that like, we're coming out of a deadly pandemic, you know what I mean? We're not even out of it yet. Things are very, very bad in this country. Like, you know, I don't, you know, it's not like I think I'm not like Biden with the stroke of a pen could end the supply chain thing, but it's like for normal people, the price of groceries is going up like noticeably and by a lot. You know what I mean? Like we're in real deep shit. And there's no more stimulus coming. You know, Biden has even said, he's like, I think the stimulus caused inflation. I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, he was like standing at the port saying, like, I think that like these stimulus checks have caused upward pricing. I'm like, dude, you haven't noticed that you're standing like where none of the products are coming out and that's going to affect like supply and demand way more than like poor people got $1,400 once this year. Right. It really, the thing that like that actually staggers me a little bit is that, and not to get into the like, is Trump better? Because it's like, who even fucking cares? It's a moot point or whatever. But the real fact of the matter is, even aside from the cash, they did 2 stimuluses last year, and more people have died of COVID this year than died of it last year. And so it really is staggering that they're hanging their accomplishments on like having gotten one stimulus package done. Like we are really in a very dire state right now. And what the Democrats are mostly focused on is getting the fucking salt cap, you know, reinstated, you know, meanwhile, like, you know, I swear to God, Thanksgiving dinner, I think Biden's approval ratings, we're going to see how strong that floor is after people spend money on Thanksgiving dinner and find that it's like an extra $100 than it was last year.
Yeah, it's awful. It's such a shit show. It's like, yeah, I don't even know where to look anymore for any hope.
I just like the only thing I don't even care. It's like I care. I can't even look to like local politics and feel like fine about it or anything. The only thing I can do is like look at like mutual aid and stuff like that. Like that's really it. Is I'm just like, everything's a fucking disaster. Let's try to like make sure that the unhoused people aren't just gonna like die of exposure in the streets. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really that into door knocking for fucking politicians. And
who the hell would you door knock for?
It's it's like Bernie wouldn't run, but even Bernie running again, it'd be like this. You can't do it again, sir. I'm sorry. Like you already like you can't do the whole supporting Biden like this and go again. Like
as early as he did. That's like I get like we all knew that he wasn't gonna like sit it out. Obviously,
he's not gonna be like the GOP, but he should like have exacted some concessions.
Yes, he should have exacted some concessions.
Used
he said
in
this at the time. It was not. He gave it away too early. I
think he really fucking internalized all the people who said he made Trump won, and they were wrong. But I think he really did think that they were right, and he like operated under that, under that assumption in the 2020 election. God, I don't know. It's like the way I feel about it is I'm like I want things to be better, but it seems that there are massive forces that will stop any movement to make things better. So I'm like. The way I feel about it lately is I'm like, listen, I was just born here, man. Like, I just was born in this country. I'm not fucking responsible for any of this shit. Like, I don't like it, but I just live here and I was born here. So I think it sucks too. That's like really how I feel these days.
Yeah, we're America lasters. Not America first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does, as Amy Goodman often asks, what gives you hope? I mean, babies are cute. I don't have any, but they're cute, so they put me in a good
dogs
mood.
Are great. Having a dog
Kenny?
is good.
How's Kenny?
Oh, Kenny did had a cancer scare. To be honest with you,
right?
We had to raise some money
a while ago.
So no, it was Kenny had one a long time ago. Had a mast cell, and then this last month had a mammary carcinoma. She had a malignant one too. She had breast cancer, and it came back malignant.
Oh my
Katie,
gosh.
And so we had to go to an oncologist. And we got good news. The oncologist is like, it's not going to spread. We basically just have to do another. We have to do another, revision surgery to take out a little bit more around where the tumor was. But the problem is that, when you get cancer, even as a dog, you have to do all this screening and stuff for like a year. And that shit is fucking expensive. I don't want to tell you how much it was, and we're very grateful. We were able to raise a lot of money on GoFundMe, but this last week when I took her to the oncologist, I would have
donated.
Oh, thank you. But we did. It was quick, and people donated. Kenny's got a fan base, and so it was very, very nice that we were able to raise some money. But it was a real high-low moment last week because I was like, they were like, she's going to be okay. And I was like, yes. And they were like, it's going to just cost like rent for the month. And I was like, uh-oh.
Wow.
I was like, oh no. But we were able to raise some, and she's doing okay. She's like perfectly fine. And that's basically what I'm thankful for this year. Kenny. Is that the dog is doing okay, and it seems that she'll live for a little while longer, and we'll be able to afford to keep her alive,
Isn't that terrible? That, like, it's a question of being able to afford to keep an animal or a human being alive?
I mean, it is like, I go to the oncologist, disgusting. And I'm like, holy shit, this is so much money. And I'm like, but it must be like 20 times as much for a human, like, in the tens of thousands of dollars for this kind of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, it really is horrendous. And it makes, I was looking into pet insurance, and they, pre-existing conditions are still a thing, and it's just impossible. And what I read even is, even if you're really diligent with pet insurance, there's so little regulation with it that they'll reject you. They'll just like make up stuff to reject you for. So I don't know, everyone,
put them on blast. Put them on blast.
Here's what I'll say to people if people want any advice about what I learned about with the dog is that you got to get a dog spayed before the second heat. We adopted her, and they spayed her at the pound before we took her away, but she was 2 years old. If a dog is spayed after their second heat, they have like a 50% chance of getting mammary carcinoma. Like, it's just really high.
Wait,
so if
second
you have a puppy,
heat is like their second period? Is that what
yeah,
it
pretty
is?
much. Yeah, it's like before they get their second period, you should go ahead and get them spayed. If you want them spayed.
You have to. you should spay them.
You should spay. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
If you want to have them spayed, you should do it. And I'm not saying that the pound should not have spayed her. I'm just saying that you should, as a dog owner, get a dog spayed before the second heat if you're able.
Yeah, spay early.
Yeah, spay early. That's what they say. And it's important. Yeah. It's important to do. Anyway, I'm glad that the dog is going to be okay. And I'm sorry to bring it down again with the dog health stuff or whatever.
No, but it's a happy story.
She's going to be good. She's going to be okay. And it'll be fine. And that's what I'm thankful for this year.
Wow. So spay early. I didn't know that. Now I'm worried about Bodhi because was Bodhi spayed when we got? She's a rescue.
Well, then what I'd say is this: if you're worried, the only other thing is that
no, she's spayed. I just don't know how old she was.
Just keep an eye. You know what we found? We were lucky, and it's mostly because Kate pets Kenny so much that we were able to find the bumps early.
Tumor.
You know, it was like we were able to find them before it became. It wasn't like because she was acting sick, we were like, what's this bump? And they got rid of it, you know?
Wow.
So
thank God you
just
took her.
Pet your dog a lot and, and if those bumps are there, don't be like, that's probably a pimple. Like, that's my instinct because I'm so like, oh, I don't want to deal. I'm not, whatever. I'm like, it's probably a pimple. And Kate's like, let's get it checked out. I'm like, I'm glad we fucking got it checked out. I really am.
Well, I was petting Bowie years ago and I saw this thing and it turned out that it was an engorged tick.
Oof.
So she has Lyme disease, which a lot of dogs
burrow their fucking head into dogs.
Disgusting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
These ticks are fucked up. The ticks are not cool.
The ticks are not cool.
Ticks are not cool.
You're fucked up. Yeah. If peer pressure could work to kill them, I'd be happy. I would totally ridicule them.
Bullying ticks is okay.
Yeah, bullying ticks. That is it, Chief. That is it.
Yeah, that is in fact it. After all.
Yeah. No, but she's okay. She's on medication.
Good. Jeez. You can get Lyme disease from that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. I think she may have Lyme disease, actually.
Oh, wow. Did you get the tick checked? My friend Travis just came. He's from New Hampshire, and he, found a tick on himself. And so he, took the tick corpse and mailed it to some company that, tests them for Lyme disease and shit like that.
And did it have it?
See if you were... And it did have it, but he got it off quick enough. He was getting himself tested, but he didn't think he had it because he got it off quickly enough, and it takes a couple days. I'm also not a doctor,
know,
so don't take...
were they ever able to measure? Because they should have been able to measure the size of it to know how much it had, right?
They did. They were able to tell that it had his blood, and they did tell that it had Lyme disease. But I think he was getting himself tested. I have no idea. I'm not also a Lyme disease doctor, so don't take any of this.
You guys, contrary to popular belief or appearances, Jack is not, in fact, a Lyme disease doctor, a doctor of Lyme. Yeah. No, my mom.
So don't take this as expertise.
My mom had her face collapsed one day. She's fine now, but one day her face collapsed.
What is that?
One day she had a very bad headache. She had a really bad headache, a really, really bad headache.
Yeah.
And then half of her face collapsed.
Wow, like a
Bell's
stroke kind
palsy.
of thing?
It was a Bell's palsy from Lyme's disease, which she didn't know she had. And so they gave her all these antibiotics. She was on IV antibiotics, and then her face went back to normal. But she didn't realize that. My dad's a doctor, and he was just so relieved because he thought she was gonna have. She had an FDR headache stroke type of thing.
Sure, yeah.
So he forgot to tell her that your face may come back. So she just thought that was it.
Wow. Well, that's a pleasant surprise, though. It's nice that maybe the doctor should leave some stuff out. Keep it a secret.
Oh yeah.
If they're how long do I have to live? They should be we'll see. It's our little secret.
But it could have not. I mean, it could. Some people it does stay with, but I think most.
Well, I'm glad she got her face back. That's
me too.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good news. Are you going up? Are you doing any Thanksgiving? Not in a canceled way, but are you going to see family or anything?
We're we're actually going. Yes, we're me, my parents, my cousin, my cousin's kids, and my aunt. So Ricky's widow, Uncle Ricky's widow.
Okay, sure.
Right. So my mom's late brother's wife. I'm really laying it all out there. Anyway, so my aunt. And then my cousin, one of my cousins, who is Ricky's daughter, and then her kids, and then her husband and the husband's mom. So it's me, my cousin, my aunt, and I guess they're not related to me, but what is it? What's my cousin's husband's mother?
Does that get into a removed? Does that get into a second removed or something like that? I really don't know.
I don't know, but I will say I'm an only child, but I'm as close to my cousins as a lot of people are to their siblings. So it's kind of like but if it's my sister, would that be anything to me? Let's say it's my sister's husband. That would be your brother-in-law.
That would be your brother-in-law.
And then his mom would be my what?
Your mother. No. Nothing to you. Nothing to you at all.
Nothing to me
trash.
at all.
Trash. Leave her by the side of the road.
When we have dinner, I'm gonna be like, just so you know, you're trash to me.
You're nothing. You're nothing. You're not part of my family or my life. You're not anything to me.
Yeah. Yeah. But my cousin, no, I'm excited. My cousin's son is in college. It's his first year in college, so I'm excited to see him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That'll be cool. Yeah. That'll be great.
Yeah.
That'll be great. Yeah, I'm just spending my time between San Diego and up here for the rest of this week, so that'll be.
Wait, what's in San Diego?
Comic-Con.
The Comic-Con. Right.
Yes,
yeah.
the bizarre.
How
little
long
Comic-Con.
is the drive from?
Well, I think it's about
4
4 hours or maybe 3 hours or something like that, San Diego to LA. But tomorrow is going to be the Thanksgiving traffic, so it might be a very long time. You know, I might have to put on one of my audiobooks while I'm.
What are you reading? What audiobook are you reading?
Heretics of Dune. I picked up the Dune books again. I mean, I'd read
Dune.
I'd read 4 of the Dune books before the movie, but I saw the movie and was like, I should finish off the Dune books, and so I'm into at this point in the series, it's so far removed almost from anything that we even recognize. It's just too bizarre. It's great. I like it, but it's like we're past the point where the child of one of the characters literally became a god and fused his body with a giant slug. So, and it's thousands of years past the first book. So it's I
hate when that happens. Time. The whole slug fuse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. It's an interesting situation. Yeah.
By the way, we should update people on this. There's been an Andrew Cuomo update. Did you see this? Let's see. Hold on. As much as I really don't like this website, but we got to go here sometime. Axios has a thing on it. Overwhelming. Wait. Okay. Oh, good news for you, Jack.
Yes, I saw that.
Bill Cole likes you again.
Wow, thanks to Bill Cole.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not looking. I haven't looked at any of the chat at all for this show, so I didn't even know that he didn't like me.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. He didn't pay for it when he told us.
I only see the ones people pay for. So
overwhelming evidence: Cuomo engaged in misconduct.
Yeah.
A New York State
I think that was clear even from the AG report.
I know.
But
yes,
here
probably.
it is again.
Yes, you're right. But now double the evidence.
Yes.
A New York State Assembly investigation released Monday found that former Governor Andrew Cuomo engaged in multiple instances of sexual harassment, substantiating allegations made in a report by the state attorney general earlier this year. Okay. Driving the news, Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie.
That Axios style.
I know, they're so good. Driving the news. Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie commissioned the report in March to determine if there was evidence to support a potential impeachment of Cuomo. Heastie enlisted the Assembly Judiciary Committee, which asked White Shoe law firm Davis, Polk, and Wardwell to conduct the investigation. The report found overwhelming evidence that Cuomo engaged in sexual harassment. The report also found that Cuomo utilized the time of multiple state employees. Oh, this is the best part. To write a book. That is
fucking great.
This is amazing. To write a book while coordinating the COVID-19 pandemic response.
So people wrote his book for him. His dumb book about here's the lessons of leadership I got from COVID while I was killing all the elderly.
Yes.
That wasn't even written by him. That was written by staffers on company on government time.
Our dime. So
taxpayer dollars.
He should. I hope that the intro of the book was here's what you need to do to lead effectively. Hire people to ghostwrite. Delegate. Yeah, delegate. You can't get anything done without delegating. So, Jesus fucking Christ. The book contract guaranteed him $5.2 million in royalty advances, with the potential for more if the book did well, the report says. The report also concluded that Cuomo's Cuomo's office altered reports on COVID-19 nursing home deaths to, quote, combat criticisms, end quote, about his handling of the pandemic. what they're saying.
I mean, let's stop there for just 1 second
let's
because
pause there. Yeah.
yes, Andrew Cuomo should go to prison for a number of reasons, not least of which sexually harassing people, in a systematic way and making people feel, scared and unwelcome and stuff like that in the workplace. But let's not forget too that he fucking killed thousands of elderly in the state and then covered it up and is not he'll never, I doubt he'll ever see any consequence for any of it, but I really doubt he'll ever see any consequence for covering up nursing home deaths because I think a lot of other states are implicated in doing that same exact thing.
Yep. Yeah, of course. I mean, it is really sad that did not, the only reason there's anything about this is because with the sexual harassment and assault, while we're at it, we might as well talk about how we killed all these old people.
Right, exactly.
But that was not the scandal that was going to end
that.
him. No.
Yeah.
What they're saying, I want to acknowledge everyone who participated in all of the investigations for their cooperation, particularly the brave women who stepped forward, Heastie said in a statement. I don't know if we need that, what they're saying. I feel like that's an unnecessary, do they do this in all their weird things?
I think they have to always do a bold thing with a little thing before the bullet point. I mean, what's the difference, by the way? What's the difference between the bullet point and the bold thing? I don't really know what the difference is. I don't understand Axios style.
Me neither. And I think in some writing norms, you really don't do this thing. If you're going to indent just once, you don't indent. I remember learning that. If you're doing the outline, if you don't have more than one A.
I think what they're doing
you
here.
You know what I'm saying? You have Roman numeral 1.
Yes. What they're doing here, I think, is actually what the style of Axios is I think close to intelligence reports read by CEOs and the president. Right. I feel like these are the kind of things that employees create for the boss to look at because he's I only have 5 seconds to read an email or whatever. Yeah.
Presidential or CIA, whatever, deep state and daily briefings.
Right. Yeah. They get just this is what it looks like when Obama, decided to kill Osama bin Laden. This is the format he read it in.
But this is what they're saying.
What they're saying. He's in he's laying in a bed.
But this is a bad what they're saying. If I'm reading this, I'd fire the person because I'm I don't need this quote by Heastie. This is not a good quote. I want to acknowledge everyone. It's so pro forma. I would have cut that out. It's not useful. You're fired. The former governor's conduct as shown in this report is extreme. But you know what? You're right. This makes no sense. What they're saying should be what they're saying in bold. Then we have one bullet point and we have the Heastie quote. Then we have another bullet point. And we have the New York Judiciary Committee Chair Charles Levine point.
It doesn't make any sense. It's all just because of how, I think it's a lot of it with Axios is how it looks on the page. It's this looks good in the Apple News app and kind of reads kind of like tweets.
But that's very inappropriate. This is a very poor. I never liked Axios, but now they don't even know how to do what they're supposed to do. Because again, you have 2 quotes under. This needs to be a bullet point. I'm very frustrated right now. I'm going to put this in a Google Doc and send it to them. The other side, the Assembly report is hypocritical, revisionist, and damns themselves as the assemble. Okay, there's some, I think, typos
Who
here.
Is this Cuomo
the Assembly report
spokesperson? Who is even a
hypocritical,
Cuomo
revisionist, and damns
anymore?
themselves as the assemble effectively forces employees. Oh, the assemble? Is that what it is?
I think they meant to call it the assembly.
The assembly, right?
But also you'll notice the editor's note there is that was added late. The article has been updated with a statement.
And we can tell, how we know, because they rushed through it and they have typos. The other side, the Assembly
or maybe they just copy-pasted what the...
The assemble.
They might have just copy-pasted what the spokesperson said and just got it up there real quick.
Right, to volunteer on their political student practice. So, honestly, Rich, at the party, you're a loser. You're fired, too. Because that's a terrible defense. It's... this whole as-the thing is stupid.
What's that?
As-the, it's as-the is when a person tries hard. It's a try hard replacement for because. It's
as-the.
As-the. Yeah.
Okay.
The Assembly report is hypocritical, revisionist, and damns themselves, which doesn't even have the right agreement, plural, but whatever. It should, because the Assembly effectively forces. But it's they're trying to sound smart. Itself, I know.
Yeah, is the assembly not an itself or something? Is it themselves?
You know what? look
you
what
know,
I'm gonna
as
do.
a party, as a spokesperson, let's get the grammar. Let's get the grammar
Seriously,
down.
I'm losing
That's my
hope in
biggest.
all. This republic is crumbling because of, and I know that because of the Axios piece.
But you know, it is wild. I mean, it's like, you know, Cuomo really is like a thug, and what I think is maybe most astonishing about it is that he really did think he was going to be able to like just force his way through it, you know, just like bullshit his way out of it. And frankly, he was getting a lot of assistance and support from the Me Too or from the Time's Up organization for at least a little while.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, did you see that story that the Time's Up like fired like all their employees or whatever? But what I think is so fascinating about that story is they like fired all their employees to do a reset, except for the 3 executives who are still left. You know, so it's like
to reset it.
They fired all the like people who like set the meetings and answer the phones and shit like that. Meanwhile, like the actual like acting CEO who was like still there during all this is like just staying in there. Like, we need to reset. And you know whose fault it is? It's like them, not me. It's all the other people in the building.
Yeah, seriously. Like the buck stops there.
With my assistant. The buck stops with my assistant, who was very naughty. Never should have set a call for me with Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, seriously. Right, exactly. They're probably like they never should have spoken up. I mean, that was the big problem, right?
I mean,
that's why they're fired.
I think that they just wanted to. I frankly think that they're probably just bleeding like donations as well. Because, you know, I heard a friend of mine. This is just so random and weird. I'm sure this is one of the people that was like laid off, but a friend of mine was just like hanging out with his college friend, and I think his college friend's wife was like, "Oh, I'm working somewhere new. I don't want to say where because everybody hates it." And then she was like, "It's the Time's Up organization." I'm like, what a fall from grace that people who work
like
there.
A scab?
I mean, no, it was like she got. I have no fucking idea. I don't know the whole story. I just heard that she was embarrassed to work at Time's Up, and I thought, wow, what a
disgrace. There was a time
what
when
a fall from grace.
Proud. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm sure that's one of the people that got fired. Was, you know, anyone who did go there and start like scabbing. Well, they like certainly. But what I think is, I think that they're not getting like as much donations, and they're probably not getting as much like financing now that like. It's clear that their little man, you know, powerful man helping organization is like falling apart a little bit. And so, you know, maybe part of firing all the administrative staff is that they just don't have payroll any longer.
Right. They literally just couldn't. Yeah. They couldn't get it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a wild story.
Yeah, that was a wild story. Way to go. Way to fire like the most. Probably the people who have literally the least amount of blood on their hands.
Yeah,
it's the people who actually are cozied up to Cuomo who are still calling the shots.
What I thought was fascinating is that when they said who was still staying on at Time's Up, one of the titles they said was head of entertainment. They're like, the head of entertainment is staying, and I'm like, the fucking head of entertainment.
Do they like play movies or something?
I'm like, are you talking about like are you trying to like develop for like Netflix or something like that? Like seriously. The head of entertainment at the battered woman's shelter? Like what the hell are you talking about?
It's perfect though. Isn't that kind of perfect?
I mean, it is. Like, I mean, it does feel like what the company was formed to do was like create documentaries about Me Too and sell them to Netflix or something like that.
Yeah. Well, one of the people, remember my mom did like a little mini deep dive with us on some of the people on Time's Up. Yeah. And
I think a lot of them ended up quitting and or, you know, resigned.
Yeah, but she was talking about the powerful like a lot of the powerful people there,
the backing people. Yeah. You know, it's well, no, I mean the a lot of their board did resign even now. Like a lot of the board resigned even before this mass firing. There are still people left who ended up, but what I was saying is like the few people who didn't resign and were on the executive side, they didn't end up getting fired during this big culling, you know, even though there were people who have kind of been there through all of the Cuomo advisement and everything like that. Another wild thing, you know, that nobody really wants to talk about, of course, is that, you know, Time's Up did the exact same thing during the presidential election, and it's for the guy who won the presidency.
Right.
And that's not just like a coincidence that they did that for both Andrew Cuomo and Joe Biden, but I think that's just a little too uncomfortable for people to reckon with at this particular moment in mainstream media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. If only Biden had like actually committed to pulling out the troops in Afghanistan earlier, the media would have turned on him.
I mean, it's true. It's true. If the story, if the story had come out then, like it would have been, instead of responsibly before people, had to make their choice during the primaries, that would have gone huge. If it came out right at that moment when the mainstream media had, all their, military industrial contacts in their ears telling them, get him fucking back in now.
Yeah. So ridiculous.
I mean, it is. I mean, whatever. You sometimes just have to be like it's such a farce. America's such a goddamn joke. And the fact that that's what got the media to like finally turn on Biden.
It was for all the wrong things. Like that they, I know.
I know. And it's like, and by the way, now I kind of feel like I feel like now they want to like build Biden back up, but they're like, holy fuck, we like let the genie out of the bottle and everybody just hates him now.
Exactly.
They're like, now they're doing stories that are like, we can't understand his like low approval ratings. And it's like, well, he sucks. And you guys ran for like an entire like 2 months during summer saying how like the Taliban is going to start enslaving women and girls again. And it's all Joe Biden's fault. It's like, what the fuck do you think is going to happen?
I know.
I think I know what's going to happen, which is that I think Donald Trump is going to become president again.
I know.
That's what I think is going to happen.
I do. Yeah. I would not be surprised. Honestly.
It's like that's what's being telegraphed every single day to me. It's like Biden hasn't said anything except that he's going to run again. Trump has not said anything.
Why do they need to say that?
I mean, it is funny for an incumbent president to even need to tell people I'm running again.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, there are all these rumors because Kamala does look like every minute she does look like she's about to lunge at him and kill him.
I mean, but also Kamala at this point, like that's the only way she could like ever become president
is if he dies.
If Joe Biden dies, like that really is it. Like she's got to know. I mean, she's seeing her approval ratings. She can't like. I sometimes as a joke say Kamala Zan Quayle, like Xanax Dan Quayle.
I like that. Yeah.
Because I mean, like she's got to see that she hasn't gotten over. Nationally in any way, her approval rating's fucking 28, which is like, I mean, I think Kamala is like an absolute joke, but the 28% approval rating is like that she rates lower than like Congress. I'm like, wow, they really picked a winner. They really picked a winner this time. They picked
a real winner, and they gave her like the best assignments, voting rights.
They're like, you're in charge of the border. I mean, Joe said he was going to cure cancer. I mean, why not put Kamala in charge of curing cancer too? Add that to the portfolio.
Jesus. And she did. What is that weird space thing she did with kids, like child actors?
That was so bizarre. And also, by the way, one thing that's really frustrating is that like shit like that. I just want to have a good old fashioned making fun of that. Like that was Kamala Harris looking weird as shit and with like actor kids and everything like that. But because everything is so fucking politicized and we're all at each other's throats or whatever, it's like there's all these like fact checks about like, was it, appropriate for Kamala? It's like liberals have to like throw themselves on the grenade so often for like the stupidest fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like when Biden told that the Satchel Paige story and he said like the not as offensive but still not great N-word, and all the liberals like had to like throw themselves on the fucking grenade being like, no, he didn't say that.
Wait, I don't think I know this story.
I'll just, it's not an illegal word, but I don't want to say it. But
don't say it.
He referred to Satchel Paige as the great Negro pitcher at the time, and he did this on stage, and he did it because he was a pitcher in the Negro League. And so it's like you can understand why Joe Biden in his older brain got confused in that way. But he did call him a Negro pitcher on stage. You know what I mean? And then all the liberals are like, no, he didn't. Fact check. He didn't really do that. And it's like, no, he is on video doing that. Even if you want to explain away that like he probably meant to say, the league or whatever. I'm like, no, but he did still do it. And like, that's gaslighting. And by the way, can't we all just have a fun laugh at how the fucking president is like a goofy sort of like 1930s era racist? Like everything needs to be the big fucking culture culture war. Like, just
Yeah.
admit your guy fucked up. It's not
Yeah.
that big a deal. Like, good Lord.
Yeah, what that sounds like what they'd make fun of Trump people for being.
Of course. And that's
Like-
that's really what it feels like now. Is it's like, you know, now like the like hardcore liberals are just like as loony as the Trump people. Like, you know,
Yeah, what
as
is
glorious
there to
leader
fact check,
about
by
it.
the way?
What's
What is
that?
there to fact check about the? We can watch it. It's good old fashioned fun. I think we should. Let's do it.
I mean,
watch that. It's
you
a
know,
while- yeah.
that guy Tommy Christopher at Mediaite like did a bit. He
With
was
the
like
fedora?
fact check. No, he didn't say that, and he did a whole. He had a transcription of it, and it was like, well, he did say that. You know what I mean? Like
Didn't
they're
he-
like, well,
he
they're trying to
also,
make it like.
Oh, that guy also went after Bernie for using the word Niggardly.
Oh yes, I remember that. Which was
Which
all
has
that I remember
nothing
somebody
to
posted
do.
that when
Oh my
the thing
God.
with Biden telling his Satchel Paige story. By the way, another funny element of that Biden moment and everybody freaking out about it. And here's what's maybe actually sort of more weird about it is that Joe Biden, because, you know, I think he's got Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that, tells that story wherever he goes. He told the Pope the story. When he went to see the Pope, he was like, the Pope was like shaking his hand, and the translator had already walked away, and Joe Biden starts telling the story about Satchel Paige. The translator had to like run back up and start translating again. They stand there for 2 minutes, and Biden won't let the Pope's hand out of his hand. The
my
Pope like
God.
looks uncomfortable while Biden is just like
It
rambling
takes a lot of
on
work
about
to make a Pope uncomfortable. By the way, clergy usually make.
I mean,
you,
yeah,
but
exactly. Like the things
Yeah.
they hear, they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's all
seriously.
good. It's a party.
Yeah. Whoa, I didn't know
Anyway.
that. Did he at least not say it in that
He did
way?
not say that particular word
right,
in
but you
that
think
one.
that he would
but,
want to not.
but that
draw
is like
any
a dementia
attention to
guy
him.
thing to just go around and to be telling everybody the same story. He also,
Right.
by the way, the Pope footage is truly hilarious, and it's
I
worth
didn't
it's
see
worth a
that.
watch
Let's watch
sometime.
that,
It's a
yeah.
little long, the C-SPAN cut of it, but he gives the Pope a challenge coin. You know?
Okay, how do I find it? Do you have the link to it?
Let me try to find it
Right,
here. I'll try to tell you how to skip ahead too.
Okay.
Let me see here, because there maybe we'll just watch this whole
Yeah,
this
why not?
whole thing.
And by
Let me
the
see if I
way,
can find
I'm gonna
it.
do. You know what I'm gonna do while you find that?
Yeah.
Watch this. Hold on. I'm gonna rewrite that. I already made a Google Doc. I'm gonna send this to. Watch this. Can you guys see this? I'm gonna make suggestions, and I'm gonna send this to Axios. Okay.
Wow, there we go. All right,
Right?
I'm going to send this in the link here. You're gonna want to
Alright,
go to
great.
that C-SPAN link and go to 4 minutes in. 4
Alright.
minutes is when the good stuff starts.
All right. Let me just add this one
Oh,
thing
good.
because I promised
Good.
the people I would do it. All right. Let me actually take it off of suggestion while I editing because I want to make the font bigger and I don't want that to come up.
Sure.
Let's see what's the font. Oops. Whoops. How come I can't? Where's the font control? All right, I'm not used to. All right, you know what? Can you guys see this?
I can
Is
see it.
it-
Yeah, we can
Alright.
see it.
All right. So, guys, all right. Here's the first mistake. You can't have just one bullet point. You need multiple, right? Then, here's the other mistake. What they're saying. I want to. No, you can't do that. We're going back to suggestion. You need both of them with bullet points.
Yes, they need to be on
Obviously.
their own bullet points there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if one of them has it, here.
It's bizarre to have it under
We're
the
gonna go
what
like
they're
this.
saying thing.
Yes, exactly. So now we go like that. Boop. Now it's fixed.
There we go. Yeah,
There you
that
go,
is better.
okay?
That
You're
is a better one.
welcome. You're welcome. What are you called again? Axios?
Yeah,
right?
Axios. It's Axios, right? It's Axios.
Axios, yeah. Then this, hold on. The Assembly report is hypocritical, revisionist, and damns themselves. So we're going to write itself, right? I mean, I wouldn't
Well,
gone
I mean,
with that
or you should
language,
put a
but-
sick. Perhaps you want to put one of those apostrophe
Oh,
SIC.
you're right. So
if
we're
it is in
editing- right,
fact
we're editing- yes,
Cuomo's
okay.
spokesman who said
Right.
that,
Yeah, you're right.
then you'd have to throw in
Yeah.
a sick.
And
One of
damns
those little sicks.
themselves sick. Right? As the
Yeah,
assemble
there we go.
sick.
Yeah, you have to put another sick there next to the assemble.
Yeah.
I know sick is actually from Latin, but my brain has always just remembered it as spelling incorrect. That's how I always remember it.
That's
not what it actually stands for. It's like a Latin thing, like sick, whatever. But I just remember spelling incorrect.
That's a good way to do it. And this is just an editorial decision. I'm making this for the benefit of not Axios, but just saying it's less pretentious. Just do whenever there's an as the, just do it because.
Okay, yes.
Unless it's like as the evidence implies, blah blah blah. Sure.
Yeah.
But when you're using it as a to bridge. All right. So, guys, you're welcome. That was your
very nice.
The Katie Halper Show rewrite of the day.
Very nice.
So now let's show what you got. The Pope video.
Yeah, I sent it to you in the private chat there, and you started about just 4 minutes in. It's like it's in that kind of Office kind of cringe humor, It's like it's very in that style, and also it's like people. Oh yeah, they're like Biden's not funny like Trump, and I'm like you're just missing out on moments like this. Like this stuff is good.
That was the worst argument. They wrote a piece about that in the Post. Like, are we going to be able to make fun of him? I don't know.
Mobile app.
No. Yeah. So you want to skip to about 4 minutes in if you can do that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a long video.
Oh, thank you.
They're mostly just standing around and blah blah blah. But at 4 minutes is when he starts to give the challenge.
Jill? Who's that? Oh, that's the translator.
That's Jill.
Okay. No,
that's the translator. That's the translator. You're right. Jill is there also.
Body doubles.
Jill's there also, but the translator. They all have
to wear the same head doily thing?
Yes. Okay, here we go.
Should I make it earlier than this?
No. Right here. We're just seeing some B-roll right there, and then we'll get back to them.
Lovely art. I like this Pope.
Here we go.
Oh my God, he looks like a wax statue.
I'm not sure this is appropriate, but.
Uh-oh. Wait, Biden, whenever you say I'm not sure this is appropriate, but.
With the Pope?
Hold it back. And when you're with the Pope, hold it back immediately.
There's a tradition in America.
Oh my God, why is he such a soft speaker? The Pope looks so nervous.
Has what is called a command coin.
It's a little chop. Oh, there we go.
So these black lace things are
gives to warriors and leaders.
Warriors and leaders.
And you are the most significant warrior for peace I've ever met.
Okay.
And with your permission, I'd like to be able to give you a coin.
The Pope looks so nervous.
Here he goes.
The U.S. seal on the front.
The Pope is like, what do you want me to do with this shit?
This coin. Usually, but I know my son would want me to give this to you.
Oh my God.
The hand.
I have the state of Delaware. The 261st unit my son served.
So he gave the Pope a coin with Delaware on the back.
But it's like for Bo.
Yes, he's like, my son would have wanted me to do this.
Next time I see you, you don't have it. You have to buy the drinks.
He's too weird. He's like, I'm just kidding, man.
Never had a drink.
Hanno portato il whisky.
He said something about
I know that.
brought whiskey.
Anyway.
Wow.
Then we cut away, and there's another moment.
Oh no! What is with the
this
twins?
is the end.
Why is his wife dressed the same as the
This is the
translator?
end. This is the end of it, right?
All right.
He shakes hands with the translator. She's going to leave.
Doesn't he look? Sorry, really quickly. Doesn't he look exactly like that guy from? Is it Game of Thrones?
He does have a very that guy look.
Like what's his name? John. He's like.
Is it Jonathan Price or is that somebody else?
I don't remember, but it's some name like that. He looks so much like him.
Yeah. It's Jonathan Price. Yeah.
It was a famous African American baseball player.
He's like not gonna be fooled again.
Here we go. And then look, the translator has to fly back in. Oh, we're doing more story time.
Baseball until he was 45 years old because he was black.
And by the way, this Satchel Paige story is about how everyone thought he was too old, and then he was still a good pitcher. So that's also why Biden's telling it. Biden's obsessed with the story about a guy who was too old, and then he exceeded expectations.
I mean, what's going on? I'm sorry, this is superficial, but it looks like the hair behind him is It's like a ring around a planet.
Yeah.
Looks like it's gonna fly away.
And usually pitchers lose their arm when they're.
And we widen out to show that he's still gripping the Pope's hand. He's just keeping the Pope's hand in his as he tells this story about Satchel Paige.
Si chiamava Satchel Paige. Allora gli giornalisti sono andati nello spogliatoio.
The commanding exec said, Satch, no one's ever pitched to win at age 47. How do you feel about pitching to win on your birthday?
E tutti hanno detto, nessuno c'è mai riuscito a fare questo a 47 anni. Come ti senti averlo fatto il giorno del tuo compleanno?
And he looked at me and said, boys, that's not how I look at age.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Boys, that's not how I look at age.
Dice, ragazzi, non si guarda all'età.
I look at it this way.
Oh God, he keeps going.
The Pope was kind of like, I think I'm gonna go.
You didn't know how old you were.
Check.
Quanto vecchio saresti se tu...
During his meeting later with
And
the
then
Italian
C-SPAN cuts
Prime
away.
Minister in Rome,
I want to know how old. I know
Also
how.
answered
I want to know.
Pope
That's the one
Francis at the
answer I want to
Vatican.
know the question to.
And then C-SPAN cuts away. There's Biden overstaying his welcome with the
At
Pope
yeah,
in
seriously.
the Vatican.
What's up with
There
the
we go.
matching outfits though? Why is Jill?
Yeah,
and
it
the
is
translator?
strange.
It is
The,
weird. They
like-
look like it's like. I feel like maybe they think that Biden is going to be fooled to think like it's the same person or something.
I mean, you just hope he didn't try to bring the translator back to the hotel. You know,
Yeah,
you hope that
seriously.
they're not like, all
Be very
right,
awkward.
Jill, come on, get in the car. How do we know it's not the translator who's even back in D.C. now?
Seriously, right
You know,
now, I know.
They could have been a switch. They could have done a switch.
That is so weird.
That's some fun. Yeah, they're still fun. There's still fun Biden footage, but they just don't run it on repeat on CNN like they did with Trump. Like anytime there was
Right.
something funny with Trump, they just run it all day. The Biden stuff, they're just like, let's go ahead and leave that, just where it lay. Let's leave it where it lay.
Yeah, that deserves more screening.
It's an interesting one. I mean, we really are in the dementia president. It's what everybody said, it's whatever all the leftists were saying, and everyone was like, that's too fucked up, don't say that or whatever. It's one of those things where the right is right about that. Like the man does appear to be suffering from, not being
Yeah.
fully there. I'm not a
Fully
doctor,
there.
but
Yeah.
it seems as though he's not completely all there. And that is slightly interesting for that to be the, maybe the third time that's happened with
Right.
with the most powerful man on the planet. It's like Reagan got there, but Biden's in there like just from day one, like kind of just confused as to where he is.
Reagan didn't start off there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they have to wear scarves in the presence of the Pope. I get that, but do they have to wear all black and black lace scarves? Can't they wear different scarves? Sorry.
What would
someone
Kirsten
put that-
Sinema wear to the Pope? That's the question.
Oh my God.
Would
What
they
would she
make
wear
an
to the Pope?
affordance?
Would it be like what was that like? What did her ring say? Like fuck
I
off?
think it just said like fuck or
It said
something.
fuck
It was
off.
like
I think it was fuck
yeah,
off.
I think it was
yeah.
fuck off. Yeah.
What would she wear? That's a really good question.
Yeah, when Kristen Sinema is the Democratic president, what will she meet? To go meet the Pope. We'll
Yeah.
see. That's very sexist
She'll
to
just
talk
bike
about.
in. She'll bike in.
Yeah.
She'll
It's
she's a
it's very
triathlete.
sexist to talk about what Kristen Sinema wears. You wouldn't talk about what a man was wearing if he dressed like he just shopped at Hot Topic and walked
Yeah,
onto the Senate, the
exactly.
floor of the Senate. You wouldn't talk about what a man was wearing if he went to the Senate in jeans and like a tank top,
Yeah.
like,
Or had a fuck off ring on.
yeah, wearing a ring that says "fuck off." Yeah, he
Oh, what
wouldn't.
a fucking weirdo.
We wouldn't talk about a man who was dressed weirdly at the Senate. That's for goddamn sure.
I know.
No one talked about Barney Frank and his protruding nipples when he went and spoke in his casual
God.
wear.
Barney Frank is such an enigma.
He's just surrounded
just
by
like-
very powerful people, and they
Yeah.
all care about each other the most. Once you get into
So gross.
Martha's Vineyard, that's all
Yeah.
you give a shit about is like the cobblestone in front of the fucking grocery store there.
Right.
You don't fucking care about anything. You just care about all the little fucking.
You
Is
know who
Alan
cares?
Dershowitz mad at
You know
this
who
person?
cares?
Who's that?
Larry David cares. Remember, he yelled
It's
at
true.
Alan the dirt.
He did.
Yelled at
He
dirt.
did. He does care. But that's also just because he's allowed because everyone's like, it's funny. Larry yells.
Right.
Larry's a
Right.
funny yeller guy.
Yeah, that was a great story.
Yeah. That was a good
Anyway,
time.
well, Jack, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you
Thank
for
you for having
everyone
me.
who stopped by. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
great.
What a
Yeah, it was
pleasure.
nice.
Always
Yeah.
glad to come.
Yes, definitely come back. Keep us. Yeah, definitely come back. I think you and Leslie and Ryan Weintz and I are going to do a watch party.
Yes, that's coming up sometime soon. We have to keep we keep rescheduling it, but we are going to be watching the Mayor Pete documentary sometime soon over at Twitch.
Documentary with you guys at Twitch. So make sure that you come. Well, we'll link to it, but you can do that at Twitch. You guys can watch a show with us, a movie with us.
Yes, Amazon allows you, by the grace of Amazon,
I know,
they let you stream Prime Video on Twitch.
Yeah, it's the only way we can do it. So it's a watch party. It's like it'll be Mystery Science Theater with us watching the Mayor Pete movie. Also, please subscribe, please like, please share, and of course, if you want to become Patreon supporters, you can do that at patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show, and we will see you Sunday. Have a great problematic day on Thursday night. Bye, all.
Later.